I was born in Ibadan, Nigeria. That's very, very far away from here. And as the first child, first of 5 children, I've always been a very driven person. And ever since, like, when people would ask me, do you ever stop to smell the roses, I would always say no because I'm allergic to pollen. And, but the real thing is that I have a very loud, obnoxious internal clock. And it keeps telling me, you're running out of time. You need to move it, do it. You know, you have to do something, you're running out of time. And so I always found myself almost trying to keep up to this manic internal pressure that I put on myself. And but one thing that has always made my life interesting is my vivid imagination. I started reading when I was quite young, and I started writing poetry at the age of 12. And that has always helped me when I've had to deal with any issues in my life. And at school, that vivid imagination made it really hard for me to focus. And I was that child that was constantly looking out the window, wondering what the birds perched on nearby trees were saying to each other. So it was very challenging for my teachers, but it really, that imagination freed me and allowed me to travel to places that I'd never been. I was living in Ibadan, but through the covers of a book, I could travel to Australia, I could go to New Zealand. So life was fun for me in that way, through my imagination. Okay, and so that is little Yejide in the belly of a whale. And when I was a young child, after listening to Jonah's story at Sunday school, I was the only child in the house who had recurring nightmares about being trapped in a whale's stomach. Every night, my nightmare had a different beginning and a different ending, and there were plot twists too. Like, you know, it was a whole different experience. And I wouldn't tell you what happened when I heard about Daniel in the lion's den. It was, my parents were, yeah, there were many nights I had to sleep in their bed just because I traumatized myself. While that ability to make up stories and to escape in my mind made life very enjoyable for me, it also made it very difficult for me to live in the present. I was often locked away in my head, imagining things, and I wasn't focusing on the things around me. And I've come a long way since my Jonah Girl days, and now I've learned how to slow down, how to take things easy. And what I would like to talk to you about today is share part of my story that actually led me to that point in my life. So now, fast forward to May 2015, that was last year. I was raising a young family. I have 3 kids, and I was working at a job I loved. I was doing counseling with children, and life was good. I'd also successfully published my first novel, Daughters Who Walk This Path, and thank you. Thank you. That is her, and she's a lady. And against all odds, the novel went on to become a national bestseller and was on the Global Mail bestseller list for 9 straight weeks. Thank you. Thank you. Right now, it's been published in 5 countries, and I'm hoping that it gets more, I'm able to sell more rights. One thing that I learned from my amazing publication experience was that you don't have to live in a big city. I live in Chatham, and that you don't have to have all the experience. This is my first novel, and up to 2009, I'd never even written a short story. So that you don't have to have all that experience, you know, to be successful. That if you have a product that the people regard as valuable, the world will come to you. So that was one thing that I learned from my publishing experience. But today, I'm actually not going to talk about my book. I'm going to talk about part of my life story. And I'm hoping that in talking about it, that it's going to inspire you in some way, that you're going to find something valuable that you can take away from it. So back again to 2013. While on the outside, everything looked just peachy. You know, I'd written this book, you know, it done very well, life was good. But inside, I didn't have that sense of satisfaction about the things that I accomplished. That internal clock just kept telling me, Yejide, you need to do more. You need to be more. You need to give more. It was just this manic dash to do things, and I put all this pressure on myself. And I know there are people here who understand exactly what I'm talking about. That while on the outside everything looks just good, inside you're constantly, having all this dialogues with yourself about, I need to be more, I need to do more. And so that was, I couldn't just catch a break. And it was putting a whole lot of pressure on me. And eventually, my body just broke down. And when I found myself in an ambulance, I was at work, and then I just wasn't feeling well. But before that day, I knew something was going wrong with my body. I wasn't sleeping well, I wasn't exercising, I wasn't eating well. And I just knew there was something wrong, but I kept ignoring it. I would tell you, when your body tells you something, please listen to it. Because you know what, that might be the only thing, last time, you might ever get a warning that something is wrong with you. So I found myself in an ambulance, and I landed in the hospital. And when I got into the hospital, I thought, okay, maybe it would be something, exhaustion, just something simple like that. But at the end of the day, by the time all the tests were done, I was diagnosed with colon cancer. And I remember looking at the doctor and thinking, no, he couldn't be talking about me. Life was good. Things were going well for me. I started my second book. It was meant to be published this spring. Things were good for me. So I thought, he couldn't be talking about me. I'm sure I like to believe, rather, that I'm not the only person here who's ever thought of what would my reaction be if I heard really bad news. Just for fun, because I'm just that kind of person, I polled my friends. I said, if something really bad happened to you, how would you deal with it? And everybody else said, you're crazy. And I'm like, I know that, but I still want to know. But for me, I always thought, all my life I've been accused of being dramatic. And I always thought I'll fall to the ground, I'll scream first, and then I'll fall to the ground and I'll flail. And so when the surgeon looked at me and said, well, Mrs. Kilanko, this is what you have, and we have to do surgery, I'm like, that's not part of my 5-year life plan, really. And so I turned to the nurse and I said, can you please tell me where I can go pay for cable? And she looked at me, I said, yes, because I'm not going to miss my Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy tonight. And, and she looked at me and she was like, okay. And so she followed me down to patient services, and I think she was afraid I was going to escape. I think she was like, this woman is in shock, she's going to get to the lobby and just take off. But, I was just like trying to control the things I could control. I knew Wheel of Fortune was coming up, and I could watch that. I didn't know what was going to happen with the cancer. I didn't know what was going to happen with the surgery, but I knew Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy were coming up. And so I could, I could control that. And that's one of the coping mechanisms I've always had with me. Like, I control little pieces of my life, and I think, well, if I can't control the whole thing, at least I can control this little piece. And I would never forget that nurse's kindness to me that day. All the way down to the lobby, she kept telling me, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Everything, the surgery will go well. Chemo will go well. You're going to be fine. And her kindness to me that day was the first of the many, many acts of kindness that I've received since that day, from volunteer drivers, from nurses, from people that I've met at the oncology clinic. So I don't even know her name. But wherever she is right now, I just wish her all the best, because she really impacted my life that day. So after like I said before, I've always escaped into my head. That's been my comfort place. But one thing I discovered after having surgery and chemo was that physical pain forces you to be present in your life. You can't escape it because it's real, and you're feeling hurt, like the medications wear off. And so I realized that, it was forcing me to stand still and just look at my life and look at what are things that are important, apart from, or what are the things that at the end of the day, if this was it, if this was the end, what was the things that, what are things that are going to matter to me at the end of the day? And writing has always been a way for me to process my emotions. And so that, when I started, it came in July of 2013. And so the short story, rather, that I'm going to read right now was written in August 2013. It was just my way of processing what I was going through. So the name of the short story is called Longing. Okay. Your life stopped one day. It was silenced by a telephone call in the middle of a frenzied afternoon. In the middle of asking the kids not to throw Lego pieces at each other, as you wondered, yet again, what you were going to cook for dinner. The call reminded you of the antique cuckoo clock your parents inherited from your grandmother. The bird was silenced, with its bright blue wooden head peeking halfway out of the trapdoor. During those days, everything ached. It was why you'd finally gone in to see the doctor. Your heavy breast tapped pain-filled Morse codes you could no longer ignore. Endless tests led to the hospital room where you lay. All you heard were the clicking, beeping sounds of the IV pump. The sounds were the new background noises of your life. You gave the pump a scalding look, wishing it and the army of mutant cells that fought to control your body would disappear. You were not alone. Your husband that day was in the room. You stared at his face. Though his brown eyes were darkened with worry, his sweaty palm wrapped around your fingers as he tried to smile at you. He couldn't have known his facial expression looked more like a cry for help. You thought of all the days you didn't kiss him on the way out of the house, just because you were still angry at the hastily bought gas station bouquet of flowers given 2 birthdays in a row. I'm sorry, you said. What are you sorry for? Ade asked. All this, you said, waving your arm around the room. Ade slowly shook his head. For better or for worse, remember? You didn't want to remember. Perhaps I should have said, for better, in health, and even more fantastic health. You knew it was too late to take the other words back. Before Ade could respond, the nurse and the phlebotomist enters the room. Frowning, he looked out of the window as the nurse performed an oral and anal swab for superbugs. It was when the search for a viable vein turned up empty and the tip of your index finger had to be sliced and squeezed, Ade asked to leave the room. He'd never been able to stand the sight of blood. You became angry at him. It wasn't even the worst thing you thought. When you came back, you didn't say anything to him. A part of you knew the anger was really about the moments being stolen from your lives. It was already the end of the evening. Ade announced his departure. Your children waited for him at a family friend's house. After much thought, you had both decided to cut down on their visits to the hospital. Your youngest was bedwetting again. You knew it was because you were not there to sing him to sleep. Ade bent over and kissed your parched lips. I love you, he said. Your eyes welled with tears. The anger receded. Not far, but far enough. I love you too, you said. For better or for worse, you whispered aloud as he walked out of the room. Thank you. One great thing about life is its dynamic nature. Things change. A positive change came into my life at that time when I discovered a copy of Elizabeth Edwards' book. He was I don't know if I'm sure some of you are familiar with her. I came across a copy of this book. It's our autobiography at the Oncology Clinic Library. And reading through, anywhere I go, I'm always drawn to books. So when I reading through, I found a poem. And like I said before, I started writing poetry at the age of 12. So I said poetry is my first love. Poems move me in a way that nothing else can. And I found a poem in that book. And it was written by an American lady who's no longer with us. Her name was Jane Kenyon. And the title of the poem is Otherwise. So I'm going to read Otherwise to you. I got out of bed on 2 strong legs. It might have been otherwise. I ate cereal, sweet milk, ripe, flawless speech. It might have been otherwise. I took the dog uphill to the birch wood. All morning, I did work that I love. At noon, I laid down with my mate. It might have been otherwise. We ate dinner together at a table with silver candlesticks. It might have been otherwise. I slept in a bed in a room with paintings on the wall and planned another day just like this. But one day, I know it will be otherwise. So those are the words of Jane Kenyon. Both women, Elizabeth Edwards and Jane Kenyon, lives were cut short by cancer. But the words they left behind blessed me, and I'm sure those words have also blessed countless others. Yet again, I was reminded that strangers can positively impact our lives, just like we can impact theirs. And on that sunny August afternoon, I counted my many, many blessings, and I told myself it wasn't otherwise for me at that point. And so why should I just get myself sucked up in all the emotions and miss the things that could still be? And so that was a turning point for me. And that decision changed my attitude. And over the past 10 years, I've spent many happy moments dreaming about playing the bass guitar. In my head, I've played many gigs. And even the kids know, I lie on the couch and I'm smiling to myself and I'm like, imagine myself on the stage, I'm just rocking out. And I can't play the guitar. I don't have any band members yet. I'm hoping that some people here might volunteer. But I have a name. We're going to be called the Plats, so Phenomenal Ladies with Attitude. So I said, when life sends a curveball your way, your attitude matters, because that's what's going to determine how you're going to get through it. And that's her. That's my lady guitar. Her name is Irewa Miri. I'm not going to ask you to pronounce that. It's a Yoruba name. That's a name from my Nigerian tribe. And Irewa Miri means goodness searched and found me. And that name was very meaningful to me because it gave me a lot of hope. And when I bought her October 2013, she was my birthday present to myself, she became a symbol of the things that could still be. And I know that sometimes we're going through really difficult times, we might need something tangible to hold on to, to be like, well, when I get through this, then I'm going to do this. And for me, every time I would go and just touch her and stroke her wood, I'm like, okay, girl, don't worry, I'm going to get back to you soon. And I'll just touching her and thinking that I'm going to finish chemo and I'm going to learn to play the guitar. And I'm going to have a band, even if we never play a gig. But I'm going to do those things. And those things, that having her in my life really helped me through all the months of chemo that I had to do. And this story has a happy ending. I finished chemo last month. And thank you. And as I say, the cancer be gone potions, the things put inside, they worked. And so I'm excited. I'm really happy as I step forward. I believe that the cancer phase of my life is over, and I believe I'm stepping into a new phase, and I'm excited about the things that are still ahead for me. And one thing that I would like to say is that, I'm sorry, I think I'm rushing. I speak fast when I'm a bit nervous, so. What I would like to say to you this evening is that please don't wait for a life-shattering experience before you become present in your lives. I know that, I doubt I'm the only one that has an internal clock that says move it, move it, move it. I'm sure some of you here have that internal clock as well. So remove the batteries from those clocks, throw them out, recycle them. Um, so I just want to say carpe diem. That's what's, since August, has been something that has really helped me. I said, seize the day, seize today, seize it in its little moments. Wrestle them to the ground if you have to. Leave, breathe, be expectant. Wake up in the morning and sing. I stand in front of a mirror, I'm like, oh, I speak to myself in third person. I'm like, oh, Yejide, you're such a beautiful woman. And like, a bit vain, but I encourage myself. I have to wait for someone to say, what you're doing. I have a wooden hand. I pat myself on the back. I do anything. I try to find ways to celebrate myself, because sometimes if you wait for the world to celebrate you, it's not going to happen. And so you have to have that, be able to motivate yourself and enjoy your life. And I'm not going to tell you that all the moments that we're going to have are going to be pleasant. And that is why, I fell in love with this when I saw it on Facebook. And, but one good thing about it, that's why we have cookies. And I love cookies. And double chocolate chip is my absolute favorite. So, that's why cookies are around. Whatever it is, whatever your massage, whatever it is that brings joy to your day, because there's so much going around that tries to take away your joy. So whatever it is that brings joy to your day, that makes you happy, that makes you want to sing in the morning when you wake up, try and tap into that more. And thank you so much for listening, and I wish you guys all the best. Thank you. Thank you.